For Putin, the nightmare began when Ukraine stopped just defending. On Independence Day, a new name took flight, Palianytsia, a word Russians can't pronounce, yet a drone they can't escape. Each strike tore at more than bases. It struck at Putin's grip on control, proving Russia's heart was vulnerable. If you've ever wondered how one weapon can carry both firepower and defiance, this is the story. Today, we'll reveal how Palianytsia shattered Putin's illusion of safety and why its name now echoes louder than the explosions it delivers. In the beginning, the war seemed simple, at least in its boundaries. Russia attacked, Ukraine defended. The world assumed the fighting would remain inside Ukraine's borders. That was the logic, and for a time, it held. Missiles fell on Ukrainian cities, soldiers dug trenches, and civilians braced themselves for the next wave. But something changed. The longer the war dragged on, the more Ukraine realized that survival meant more than defense. It meant reaching across the border, striking at the heart of the machine that fed Russia's war. Slowly at first, then with growing confidence, Ukraine began carrying out deep strikes on military sites and energy facilities inside Russia. Each strike shattered an old rule and replaced it with a new reality. Suddenly, nowhere felt untouchable. For Putin, this was more than a military problem. It was a violation of control, a reminder that the war he unleashed could. The turning point came on a day heavy with meaning, August 24th, Ukraine's Independence Day. As the country marked its freedom, a new weapon revealed itself for the first time. It was called Palianytsia, a word that carries weight in Ukrainian culture, but stumbles awkwardly in Russian mouths. That choice was deliberate. With its first confirmed strike on a Russian base in Voronezh, the Palianytsia arrived not just as a machine, but as a statement. Ukraine was telling the world, and Putin himself, that sovereignty would be defended not only at home, but across the border. Details of the drone missile's true capabilities were kept secret, hidden beneath layers of silence. Yet whispers spread quickly, of range, of power, of a design built to survive. For a year, the Palianytsia remained a shadowy presence, striking targets when least expected. Each use left more questions than answers, and perhaps that was the point. It was not just the damage inflicted, it was the mystery that lingered afterward. The mystery surrounding Palianytsia deepened when the new version was unveiled, not on a battlefield, but at an exhibition hall in Kielce, Poland. Rows of polished steel and silent prototypes surrounded it, but the drone missile drew the most attention. Reporters from Militarny leaned closer, studying its shape, measuring its wingspan, asking quiet questions of its maker, Ukroboronprom. This new Palianytsia stretched nearly 12 feet, compact yet powerful. Its wings spread just over 5 feet, enough for balance and control. The numbers told their own story: 700 pounds of total weight. 200 devoted entirely to its combat unit. In simpler words, explosives designed to rip through metal and concrete. For a weapon built in silence, it spoke volumes. Here was proof that Ukraine was not just surviving, but innovating. That every day under fire had taught it how to build something sharper, faster, harder to stop. For Russia, the sight of this machine on display was a warning. It was not a theory. It was reality, gleaming under the exhibition lights, waiting to be used. Range changes everything. The new Palianytsia can now travel over 400 miles. That means bases, oil refineries, and supply depots deep inside Russia are suddenly within reach. It is no longer about border raids or symbolic strikes. This drone missile can fly past the first lines of defense and aim straight for the backbone of Russia's war effort. Speed adds another layer. At over 550 miles per hour, the Palianytsia moves quickly enough to pressure defenses, but not so fast that it loses its ability to maneuver. Russian systems like the S-400 can fire missiles many times faster, but those defenses are built to chase large targets in the sky, jets, bombers, and missiles that leave clear trails. Palianytsia flies differently. It shifts altitude, sometimes just 50 feet above the ground, where radar blurs and incoming missiles risk hitting buildings instead of drones. That low path is its shield. It does not have to outrun Russia's weapons. It only has to slip under their gaze. And each time it does, a new hole opens in the armor Russia thought was impenetrable. Russia's defenses are not only missiles and radars. They also rely on invisible weapons, electronic warfare. By jamming signals, Russia has tried to confuse Ukraine's drones, sending them off course or crashing them before impact. Many early drones fell victim to this, losing their path when GPS was blocked. But Palianytsia is different. It carries an inertial navigation system, guiding itself by internal sensors instead of constant satellite signals. That makes it far less vulnerable to jamming. It knows where it is, even in silence. Satellite navigation still plays a role, but only as a correction tool, called upon briefly and then gone. This short burst of contact makes it much harder for Russian systems to detect and disrupt. Even more, Palianytsia can fly without a remote control. It doesn't wait for commands. Once launched, it follows its mission on its own, correcting course when needed. That independence strips Russia of one of its strongest counters. A drone that cannot be jammed or spoofed is a drone that cannot be stopped. Weapons often carry numbers and codes, but this one carries a name that matters. Palianytsia is the word for a traditional Ukrainian bread. To Ukrainians, it means home, culture, and survival. To Russians, it is something else, a word they struggle to pronounce, a reminder of the difference between the two peoples. By choosing this name, Ukraine sent more than a military message. It sent a cultural one. Each time the drone is mentioned, the name itself is part of the strike. It reminds Ukrainians who they are, and it mocks those trying to erase that identity. A missile drone that can pierce defenses is dangerous enough. A missile drone that carries meaning, pride, and defiance becomes something larger. It becomes a story. Soldiers know it, civilians know it, even Russia knows it. In this war, Palianytsia is not only a weapon of steel and fire, it is also a weapon of language, belonging, and memory. For Ukraine, the fight has not only been against Russia, it has also faced limits set by its own allies. Washington, while providing powerful weapons, has drawn a line. Long-range missiles like ATACMS cannot be freely used against Russian soil. Every strike requires approval, and that approval rarely comes. Requests are slowed down, delayed, or quietly denied. By the time an answer arrives, the target may already be gone. This policy has created frustration. Ukraine knows where to strike, but it must wait for permission. Even new systems, such as the extended range attack munition, are caught in the same rules. A weapon built to hit far and hard becomes trapped by politics. For Ukrainian commanders, the message is clear. Allies will help, but only on their own terms. That is why Palianytsia matters even more. It needs no green light from Washington. It takes no orders from outside. Once built, once launched, it answers only to Ukraine itself. Ukraine has realized that true security comes from producing its own weapons. After Palianytsia proved itself in battle, officials moved quickly to expand production. By 2025, reports said factories could turn out one drone each day, giving Ukraine a steady supply for deep strikes. This shift is more than numbers. It is control. Support from Europe has helped. Lithuania invested millions under the Danish model, a system where countries fund Ukraine's defense industry instead of sending their own weapons. Every drone built strengthens local factories, trains workers, and stays fully under Ukrainian command. There are no foreign restrictions, no waiting for permission. Each unit moves straight from assembly to the battlefield. In this way, Ukraine is shaping independence not only in politics, but also in industry. Palianytsia is proof that the country can arm itself for both war and future defense. Palianytsia is only one part of a much larger plan.
Palianytsia strikes not just targets, but Putin's control. Ukraine's independence in action.
Across Ukraine, engineers are designing weapons that carry both reach and weight. The Flamingo cruise missile, able to travel over 1,800 miles with a massive warhead, pushes the limits of range. The updated Neptune, sharper and stronger than its first version, promises to strike with even greater force. These projects, along with smaller secret programs, are building an arsenal that no outside approval can limit. But this effort is not just for today. Ukraine's leaders know the danger will not end when the current war does. Russia may return. To prevent that, Ukraine is investing in permanent readiness, a trained army supplied by its own factories capable of answering any attack. Each new drone and missile is both a shield and a warning. The message is simple: Ukraine will never again be left exposed. Its future strength is already taking shape. The war has shifted. Ukraine is no longer only defending. It is striking, reaching, and shaping the battlefield with weapons of its own design. Palianytsia is more than steel and fire. It is independence, identity, and defiance carried through the sky. Each launch proves that Ukraine can act without permission, that it can turn limits into strength. For Russia, the nightmare is not just in what the drone can destroy, but in what it represents: a future where Ukraine stands untouchable. This is only the beginning, and the echoes of these strikes will be heard far beyond the war.